all-white jury failed to convict 3 white students of a hate crime after they were found to abuse one of their black classmates / dorm mate. Now, Donald Williams Jr. was the victim in this case, and the victim dates back to 2013, where 7 of his white dorm mates were involved in various acts against him, one involving a U-shaped bike lock that was placed around his neck and left there for 5 minutes straight. Now, 3 white students at California's San Jose State University skated by with only misdemeanor battery charges after putting a bike lock around a black student's neck, attempting to lock him in a closet and referring to him as 3/5 of a person, among other harassments that a jury ultimately concluded were not hate crimes. Now, what they did conclude was these were just pranks gone awry and nothing more than that.
Okay, it should be noted, by the way, that he's claustrophobic. So putting him in a closet is not like, haha, I just put my frat brother in a closet. He has a significant issue with that. And number 2, he's not your frat brother. So these pranks were unsolicited and were not returned. So it wasn't like, oh, he did a prank on me, I did a prank on him. Oh, he got a little out of control, right? No, he's, 3 years younger than them. All they did was pranks on him that included, by the way, also putting up the Confederate flag.
Yeah, so they put the Confederate flag in the common room of their dorm suite, and no one really knew about what was going on until his parents came to visit him, and they noticed that there was the Confederate flag and there was also a whiteboard that featured the N-word and swastikas. That doesn't sound like a prank to me. That sounds like you're trying to make a statement against the one and only black student there. Now, keep in mind that the population of black students at this particular campus is only 3%. And when students found out about this, they were outraged. And you would think that there would be some sort of justice, but the jury, again, ultimately decided that the only thing that these 3 students were guilty of was misdemeanor battery charges. Now, they'll be sentenced in March, and the most amount of time that they'll serve behind bars is 6 months. However, keep in mind that they don't have a criminal record, and with the absence of hate crime charges or hate crime convictions, they're likely to get away with just community service.
Now, they were kicked out of the school, and it should be noted, by the way, the jury that decided they were not guilty of hate crimes. To be fair, there was how many blacks on the jury, Anna?
0.
Oh, right, 0. All 12 people on the jury were white. Okay, now, so that goes to the heart of this issue. Guys, when I read this story, I was so incredulous. I came to Anna and said, give me a couple more stories on this. What is going on? This is crazy. How can this, I mean, put the Confederate flag up. You call him, that's 3/5. His 2 nicknames are 3/5
and fraction.
And fraction, okay? And then you, on top of all this racial stuff, then you chain him up. Okay, if this is not a hate crime, what's a hate crime? And I was like, maybe it was. Maybe they were pledging the same fraternity and it got out of hand and these knucklehead young guys didn't realize you can do other things, but you don't go racial, right? But no, that was not the case. They were not bros. They weren't pledging anything. He didn't do anything to them back. All this was enormous intimidation. And then on top of that, in case you were unclear about the level of racial animus here, in a BS like apology to him, right? Like, oh, you're going to get us in trouble. They wrote a mocking letter from the beloved Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, they tried to make it or pass it off as an apology letter. It was not an apology letter. It was mocking Martin Luther King Jr. It was meant to be sarcastic. It was absolutely ridiculous. And look, this story, I think, is a perfect example of what we're talking about when we say that white privilege exists. That is not a denial of anyone's hard work or struggle in life. This is a perfect example of how certain people in this country get the benefit of the doubt. Now, let's say the roles were reversed, right? Let's say you have black students doing this to one white student. Do you think anyone's going to say, oh, this is just a prank gone awry? No, what they would say is, look at these thugs. Look at what they're doing on this college campus. Look at this hostile educational environment that they've created for this white student. They would not get the benefit of the doubt. You are white, you get the benefit of the doubt. People will assume that you're innocent before proven guilty, right?
Okay, so let me prove that out for you guys. I think Anna's exactly right on this. First of all, even the Washington Post, which had a very good article on this otherwise, described this as pranks. They put it in quotes. Now, I know that the defendants described it as pranks too, but they said it was a series of hijinks. Hijinks. Okay. Now, why did they say that? Did they say it out of animus? I don't think so. I think that when that jury, let's leave the post out of it for now, but that jury looks at those young white kids and they think, there but for the grace of God goes my knucklehead son, right? And oh God, they were probably doing a prank. Are we really gonna, hate crimes a bit much, right? Now, it's not because they're bad people, it's just because they empathize with the guy they see that looks like them, right? Now, Anna's right, flip it. Here, I'll give you more specific examples. Imagine they put up a sign of the new Black Panther Party, right?
Imagine they just play Beyonce's music video over and over again.
Okay.
And Super Bowl performance.
Yeah, I mean, the conservatives are so touchy about the Beyonce thing. Wow, right? No, they put up a sign, new Black Panther Party. They start calling them, hey, white boy, okay? Come here and do what we tell you to do, white boy. Oh, wait. Make it a girl. A white girl, and then they put a lock on her neck, right? And then they trap her in a closet. 5 or 3, I should be saying, apples. 3 black guys do that. Here's what Fox News would do. The Black Panther Party is back. Look at what they're doing to poor white girls on campuses. Campuses have become this liberal place where white people are being enslaved. You think they'd call it hijinks? I'll give you one more example. Now, again, this is not white-black, just a totally different example to give you a sense of when we wouldn't call it hijinks. Imagine it's a poor Jewish student, and they put this a swastika. Well, in this case, they did put up a swastika, but they put up a swastika, and then they put a Star of David on him, and then they, lock him up in the same way. Would anybody call it hijinks? Oh, it's so funny, that joke, that they made about Hitler and they put a star on him. Nobody would think that. Nobody would think that. But when it's a white kid, 3 white kids who do it to a black kid, oh, come on. But there for the grace of God goes my son. Not guilty, right? Guilty on, what are you going to say? Not guilty on the assault? They assaulted him when they put the lock on him. That is indisputable.
I know.
But they gave the most minor charge they possibly could.
And that's another thing. Let's say someone wants to make the argument, no, you know what, this isn't considered a hate crime, which I disagree with you 100%. But the fact that they didn't even get assault charges, right? Battery. They got a misdemeanor battery charge.
Yeah.
You're forcibly putting a lock around the neck of a student, and not only did they successfully do that once, they attempted to do it a second time, and Williams fought back. They got into a scuffle, and he, prevented it from happening. But they're obviously physically abusing him, and on top of that, using racial slurs against him, creating this hostile environment for him on a campus. It's disgusting, and it just shows me that in so many cases, justice fails to be served. And look, imagine how his parents feel, Cenk. Like, just imagine if that was your kid, and in the end, there's no justice, and you're supposed to sit back and just take it.
Yeah. No. You're supposed to go further. You're supposed to forgive them immediately. Now, whenever a black person does a crime, nobody talks about forgiving. Nobody. Whenever any person of color does a crime, nobody talks about forgiving, right? The minute a white kid shoots up and kills 9 black people in a church, let's forgive. Right away, let's forgive. Make sure you forgive, okay? The judge who asked the black families to forgive that shooter in South Carolina, again, he wasn't a bad guy. I even looked into his history. Not a bad guy. Generally on the right side of things, okay? It's just and that's the definition of white privilege, and that's what Anna's trying to point out to you. White privilege is something you don't see, right? It doesn't mean you're rich and famous. It doesn't mean you get all the breaks. Just that you don't see how many breaks are taken away from African Americans, how much injustice they have to suffer that you never even see.
Right.
So don't get mad when somebody points it out. Open your eyes and go, oh man, that sucks. That's true. If it was done to me, I'd be pretty pissed. And maybe we could all work together to make it better.